everybody put the radio on. Time to throw our troubles away. Hey, hey, we're turning up the music, we're having a ball. This band keeps rocking forever and ever. And into the jalopy, gonna go for a ride to the pizza shop with our friends. We're jumping and rocking till the sun goes down, and the moon is shining forever and ever. Forever and ever and ever. Forever and ever and ever. Forever and ever and ever and ever. Forever and ever and ever.
With the new FNaF movie around the corner, it's had me in a positive mood about the toy animatronics for the first time since 2014, and coincidentally, Socks for one, approached me to build him a bunch of suits of the main characters from FNaF 2 for his new FNaF 2 in Real Life video. Obviously, I said yes, because when someone asks me to build Toy Freddy, I do it no questions asked, but there were a few catches that made this build an interesting one. He needed a Toy Freddy, Toy Bonnie, Toy Chica, Mangle, and Balloon Boy. The only opening I had for the year before their shoot date would give me exactly 1 month to build all of these guys with the animatronics and all the stops. Now, I've been fabricating on my own for most of my work, but this was gonna be a big job to get done in that amount of time, so I got together my dream team of artists to help me out on this project. Now that I had my team, it was time to get to work. With most of my builds, I start off digitally and then we work from there, and considering the toys have a plastic finish,
we need to do some rapid prototyping, aka some 3D printing, in order to get them done in time.
Oh, and Robby's here, by the way. He took over the physical aspects of building Mangle while I did the digital design. We also pushed her back to get her done very last. You can see a proper look at the making of Mangle on Robby's channel.
It's not out yet, but it's coming soon, I swear.
To begin the process of making this new set of animatronics, I brought in my good friend Dylan to help me 3D model the shells while I focused on mech design. We started from the FNaF air models as a base for all of our shells. After redoing their shell meshes to work for our purposes, I just needed to scale everything out to our human reference. Bonnie and Chica were surprisingly the simplest. We really only needed to scale out the limbs to fit on a human person. But Freddy's slightly different because, well...
you know, he's kinda, fat.
Once we completed the shells for all the main guys, Socks had also requested that we handle Balloon Boy, and while me and the team were focused mainly on the 3 toys and Mangle, I handled the model work for him while my good friend Sour Bun Bun handled the building and sewing. Oh, yeah, and for our Balloon Boy, I wanted him to look more like an actual doll. So we opted to finish all of his clothing with real textiles. This also means less sanding, which is great because literally everything else needed sanding. So because of our 4-week deadline, we needed to get everything printed as fast as possible. So for the first time ever, we set up a print farm in Robby's living room. All of our printers were exactly the same, so we could manage every printer from the same software for the quickest process. Robby also got us a time-lapse camera setup.
This is what 4 weeks looks like in about 15 seconds.
What makes a toy animatronic a toy animatronic? It's a plastic finish, of course, and to get a look that feels correct to the renderings from the original game, we were gonna need to get them real smooth and very shiny, almost like a car. This, of course, means that the craft corner would turn into an automotive sanding shop for about 20 days. Because I was also still managing modeling, we had Izzy and Tori handle most of the finishing on the builds. There's a few kinds of glues I go between for gluing together wearable suit pieces, but the specific kind we used for these guys was an acrylic glue. This stuff is definitely more toxic than most glues though. I usually opt with PLA glue or even just 2-part epoxy, but because we had the space and resources to use acrylic glue, we just went with it.
We used some little clamps from Harbor Freight to hold everything together while we glued it.
Once all our pieces were dried, we do another pass at sanding before moving on to filling. Our filler of choice was of course 2-part Bondo. With Bondo, we'd fill in all the seams and print imperfections on each part before letting them sit and cure. After the Bondo fully cured, we'd then do another pass at sanding, but Robby had a brilliant life hack to make our lives even easier.
Life hack! I like to clamp the orbital sander to the table to sand some of the smaller parts. That way you don't have to awkwardly hold this heavy sander over a small piece you can barely see.
Now that our parts were free of any imperfections, we started priming every individual piece. We used an automotive primer to fill in any additional layer lines and get that final smooth surface for our color paint. I usually hit the edges of each part first and then focus on filling in the rest of the space.
And with us doing 3 animatronic suits, that means there's over 360 parts we had to do this to, as well as every other step we're about to show you.
From this point, once we have our first layers of primer, the sandpaper grit gets higher with each pass of primer to get us closer to that final smooth look. Our final passes are done by hand to make sure there are very little imperfections. Usually I like to keep some small scrapes or gashes to later weather and then give the effect of a more natural age to a part. Pretty much every single piece needed to be finished like this. Each animatronic had at least 120 individual prints that either got glued together or finished on their own. In total, I think every main plastic piece had at least 4 passes. Make sure to thank Izzy and Tori for their work in the comments. They really got them perfect. One of the main details from Socks was that all the suits needed to fit actors around 5'11". We had to approximate the body specs for the models and scaling, but literally everybody working on our team was under 5'9". So, we asked my friend Matt to be our model for the suits.
I don't like how Freddy model has a bulge.
Well, I gave it a bulge. I didn't know this until after, but he's only 5'10". After shoddily taping all the suit parts onto his body, we got our first look at what the suits would look like on an actual person. After doing Freddy, we did a quick test fit for both Chica and Bonnie.
And I got to try Toy Bonnie on!
Now that we started getting parts finished with the sanding process, this means it is now time to add color onto these suits. After about a day of running around local paint stores trying to find the right colors for each character, it was time to make stands, I guess.
I made a custom stand for every single
Before painting the final pieces, I ran some color tests on an unused part to get a feel for what the paints would look like on everything. And yup, that's FNaF colors if I ever seen them. Now, every single part that has been through sanding needs to be colored, which means it's painting time! I did a lot of painting. Because the finish is such an important part, I wanted to handle as much of the coloring as possible. Spray painting can be a little bit finicky sometimes, and leave some pretty obvious drips if you put just a little bit too much on. Once our main colors were dried on the most important pieces, we begun masking off the secondary, lighter colors on each character. While I handled the detail work, Izzy and Tori got on the other areas of the parts that needed to be masked off. I made some slight changes to the face patterns on Freddy and Bonnie. I connected the eye secondaries to the muzzle to look just a little bit less jarring. Now for one of the more difficult features across the toys. Chica's bib. Initially, I was gonna get a custom printed decal made locally, but the time and cost would have been hard to work with on our time frame, since we were about a week out from shipping the suits. What I opted to do for this detail instead was to mask off each color and cut each of the layers off on my Cree cut machine. This took hours, but it gave the final bib some really nice depth around each of the letters. This ended up being one of my favorite details on the build. The slight raised look of all the stickers gave the bib a really nice finish. One of the most important things, to me, about making characters like this come to life is nailing detailing the small details. Details that you can look at and read that this thing has existed for longer than it actually has. I figured the toys would have some oil buildup around each joint, as well as your normal scratches and grime buildup around each crevice. In my mind, they've just been sitting dormant and have had even more time to let that withering seep into each part. For the grime and scratches, I wanted to make sure that we do them by hand using bristle brushes and sponges. Watering down the paint to then glob on and wipe off was essential to get that natural aged look. Every single painted part got a weathering pass to make sure everything was consistently aged. During some of the withering process, I had Izzy and Tori paint the eyelashes on each character's eyelids. We used nail polish to get a really sleek look that would take some damage, in case, you know, Toy Freddy gets like thrown around in the room in Socks' video or something. Now that all of our parts have been officially painted completely, I finish everything here with a clear coat, super glossy enamel clear coat specifically, so we can have a heavy reflective surface on everything. Just like the characters from the game itself. They're really shiny in the game. We pulled out the stands again and I begun clear coating hundreds of parts. But it was okay because this was finally the last time I'd be stuck in the paint booth. Just as we entered our final week of building. First, we had Izzy begin to assemble all the toes. They were designed in pieces with functional joints so when they walk around, the toes move. As Izzy was getting the toes attached, Tori started on the adjustable strap systems that would go into all the characters' feet so the actors can wear their ideal shoe size. And once everything got installed and glued together, we had our first feet. Now while Izzy and Tori repeated this process 5 more times, we had Matt start assembling the hands. Dylan had designed a posable hand mechanism based on some of my animated hands from Glamrock Freddy. At some point in all this assembly chaos, I dropped Bonnie's chest and it broke, so we needed to resand and repaint that piece. One of the original things Robby and I had talked about, but forgot up until this very point, was reinforcing the chest with fiberglass to make sure they'd hold up well.
We wanted to make sure these suits were really strong. It would take anything that Socks and his team of 6-foot men would do to them. In case you've never used fiberglass before, just know it's super dangerous.
To start off on my mech making journey, I started with casting some resin eyes that can glow from the inside. This meant making 3 custom molds for each character's eyes. Toy Freddy's had the smallest irises, Chica's had slightly larger irises, and Bonnie's were about 1.5 inches bigger than everyone else's.
I took them to my sander to make them smooth and shiny.
Once they were cured and buffed out, they then became usable for my mechs. To make our cast of toys look extra animated, I gave them all facial movements you'd see in the original game. And AR, I guess. Including new moving eyebrows inspired by the interpretations of the characters from the first movie. Except Bonnie's, Robby f***ed them up before we shipped it out.
Look, I'm really sorry. I saw one of the eyebrows were broken the night before we were about to ship them out, and Sauce wasn't there, and I thought, hey, I could fix this, but I ended up gluing the mechanism upside down, and then it ended up doing this.
Each eye has 2 servos for up and down movement, an eyelid servo control in the eyebrows, and finally a movement in the mouth so they can chomp and look even angrier when they need to. Once our mechs were made, I threw in all the characters' teeth so I could properly program in the max closing ranges for the mouth mechs. Other details, like the freckles, noses, and cheeks, got added here. The ears were also technically part of the mechs, but like all my other suits, they're just spring-loaded and rotate up and down when the suits walk around. You'll be able to see this on Freddy later. I had custom designed all our helmets in each character, but really they're just simplified bike helmets with adjustable straps inside. With plastic builds like these guys, it's important that I add foam padding to brace the weight of the whole suits at the bottoms of the feet. So we got some EVA foam and made some quick pads to glue to the bottoms. We created some removable props during the modeling process. Initially, I would have liked these to be magnetized instead of strapped, but due to the fact these suits need to move around very lively, I opted for straps so Freddy doesn't accidentally throw his microphone across the room. Toy Freddy's microphone from AR is huge, so we left the metallic finish on it to make it look almost like one of those toy microphones. Get it? Because he's Toy Freddy. Chica's cupcake was also pretty straightforward. We did some painting and withering on it, and then put some stickers with the eye textures printed on them onto the eyes before clear coating. We strapped everything together using nylon and elastic straps, creating what can only be described as big plastic pants and sleeves for each character. But the work doesn't end there. To make sure we don't have pieces sliding all around our actors, we need to add some padding to the larger parts like the chests and pelvises. Now, after approximately 1,000 hours of combined work from everyone on the team, we did some partial test fits ourselves before we needed to ship them off the following morning. We had finally created the toys. As soon as they were completed, they were gone. After some pretty annoying shipping problems, initially we tried to ship them normally, but apparently animatronics are too big and heavy for normal FedEx. And then, when I thought we had finally convinced FedEx that these robots can be safe and trusted on a plane to Canada, and I thought we were done, the night before they were scheduled to get to Socks, I got a notification that they were stuck in customs at 5 a.m. and proceeded to spend about 10 hours stressing. Socks managed to rescue them from the point they were stuck at. Now, they are at their new home. Shout out to everyone on our team that lent a hand to build all of these suits. Go follow them and go check out everyone's individual work in the description. This actually genuinely would not have been possible without everyone's contributions. And also, during this video, you may have noticed some little bits and bobs from Mangle throughout. If you want to go see how she turned out, go check out Robby's video to see her build process.
It isn't out yet, but it's coming out soon, I promise.
And go check out Socks FNaF 2 in real life video, out now, if you want to see more of the gang and Mangle. Now that they're out of my hands and done, I got a movie to go watch in theaters right now. Oh god, it's Toy Freddy. He's here to rip me in half. You need to go watch Five Nights at Freddy's 2, only in theaters now, to go save me. Go watch it now. You need to go. Ah!